بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه وبعد فالليلة ليلة الأربعاء 29 من شهر صفر لعام 35 و400 وألف من الهجرة. Tonight, the night preceding Al-Arba'ah or Irbi'ah, the 29th night of Safar in the year 1435 from the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to continue with our translation of the explanation of Muhammad Ahmad ba Jabir to the book Daleel at-Taalib li Nail al-Matalib li Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Karmi. The book that was authored by Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Karmi, who passed away in the year 1033 from the Hijrah. And we're going to continue with our translation of Muhammad Ahmad ba Jabir's explanation of this book, reminding everyone once again that this explanation is one that only talks about the topics of this book. And it doesn't go out and to get into the disagreement or the ikhtilafat or tarjihat of the different scholars. Instead, his explanation is just so we can understand what was meant by this book. واشترط الشارح على نفسه أن يذكر الدليل والتعليل. And the explainer made it a condition upon himself that he would mention the evidence, i.e. the daleel from the kitab and the sunnah, wat-ta'leel, or the justification which supports the opinion that is being chosen in this book. And as we do every class, then we want to review what we have studied so far. And we're not going to go over everything, but just what we took last class, but we'll read everything to where we're at. And if you want to know what kind of student you are, or how much benefit or how beneficial this class is for you, then all you have to do is look at where you are regarding the remembrance of what we're about to read. So the author, rahimahullah, Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Karmi, he started off his book with this statement, Kitab at-Tahara, وهي رفع الحدث وزوال الخبث المياه أو أقسام المياه أو أقسام الماء ثلاثة. أقسام الماء ثلاثة، أحدها طهور وهو الباقي على خلقته يرفع الحدث ويزيل الخبث، وهو 4 أنواع: ماء يحرم استعماله لا يرفع الحدث ولا يزيل الخبث، وهو ماء ليس بمباح، وهو ما ليس مباحا. جيد. So the extent of what we took from the book so far was the book of Tahara. So when you want to test yourself, ask yourself, what can I explain about the statement Kitab at-Tahara? Right? Literally, religiously, what is its meanings? And the author, he said, وَهُوَ رَفْعُ الْحَدَثِ, and it is the purposeful removal of hadath. 1 second. Ta'al. What's up? Both our cars' batteries are dead? No, my battery's not dead. Just tell her to wiggle the wire a little bit. And tell her to leave the box that's in my trunk here so I can take her car home. Excuse me 1 second. Now, right, so we said the author, rahimahullah, he said, وَهِيَ رَفْعُ الْحَدَثِ. Tahara is the purposeful removal of hadath. Ask yourself, what is hadath? Can you answer that question? Then we added this statement, وَمَا فِي مَعْنَاهُ, and things similar to it. Ask yourself that question. Do you know what we mean when we say things similar to it? And then the statement was zawal al-khabath, or izalat, zawal al-khabath, and the going away of filth. Can you understand and explain that statement? Then this author, rahimahullah, he said, وَأَقْسَامِ الْمَاءِ ثَلَاثًا. The types of water are three. Right? Why did the author bring water up next? Right? Why did he mention water next? What are the different things that we can use to purify ourselves with? These are things that we talked about. We talked about the definition of each type of water. Tahur wa tahir wa najis. And we said that each of them would have three things. The ism, the wasf, and the hukm. Or the ism, the ta'rif, and the hukm. What is its name? Tahur. What is its ta'rif or definition? The author said it is the water, huwa al-ma' al-baqi ala khilqatihi. It's the water that remains the same way it was created. I.e. in reality or in the ruling that we give it. Right? What's its ruling? يَرْفَعُ الْحَدِث وَيَزِيلُ الْخَبَث. It removes the hadith and it gets rid of the khabath. Right? With the evidence of Allah's statement, وَيُنَزِّلُ عَلَيْكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً لِيُطَهِّرَكُم بِهِ. Allah said, and we sent down upon you from the sky water to purify you with it. Right? Surah Al-Anfal, Ayah 11. So that's what we took in the first couple of classes. Then we said the author, rahimahullah, was going to tell us about at-Tahur. And we said that the Tahur, which is the first category of water, had four categories. So who remembers the first category of Tahur water? This is what we took in last class. Right? We said at-Tahur, وَهُوَ أَرْبَعَةُ أَنْوَاءٍ. It's four types of Tahur water. What's the first type? Tahur muharram. Right? The first type of tahur water is that which is haram. Right? That which is haram. What is its hukm? What does it do? Al-ma' tahur haram. Does it remove al-hadath? Hadath. Hadath. What's hadath? Hadath. What's hadath? We said al-hadath wasfun qa'imun bi badan tamna'u min as-salat wa nahwu. We said al-hadath is a condition in the body that stops a person from being able to pray and things similar. Right? تفضل. أي نعم. هذا بعدين إن شاء الله. لكن الحدث هو وصف قائم بالبدن تمنع من الصلاة ونحو. It's a condition of the body that stops it from being able to pray and things similar. Right? So we said this tahur, al-muharram, does it remove the hadath? We said la, it doesn't remove the hadath. Right? Why not? What was the daleel? The water being haram itself. Right? What's the proof that the water is haram? For example, something that's stolen. What's the proof that that water is haram? Fadl. Right, the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Inna dima'akum wa amwalakum wa a'radakum alaykum haram." The statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he said, "Your blood and your property and your money or your honor is haram amongst yourselves." So we know that the water is haram. Okay, we know the water is haram. Why doesn't it remove hadath? We mentioned a principle about why this water, we know it's haram. Everybody agrees the water is haram. You stole it, you took it by force, you didn't have permission to use it, the water is haram. Why doesn't it remove hadath? What's the evidence? What's the Daleel or the justification about why it doesn't remove hadath? There's no consensus. Scholars ikhtalafu. We mentioned the Daleel. We mentioned the justification, right? We said, An-nahi yaqtadi al-fasad. Prohibition necessitates corruption or invalidation. Prohibition necessitates invalidation. If something is prohibited, then it's invalid. Right? We gave examples for this. Right? A woman gets married to her brother. Does that contract count? Why not? Because prohibition, it's haram to marry your brother. يقتضي الفساد. Prohibition necessitates corruption. Or what's the word I just said? Prohibition necessitates invalidation. If it's prohibited, then it's invalid. So since this water is prohibited, then the wudu is what? Invalid. Right? This is the ta'leel that we mentioned. This is a qa'idatun shar'i. النهي يقتضي الفساد. If something is haram, then it's invalid. It doesn't count. It's not accepted. Right? النهي يقتضي الفساد. So if somebody says, what's the daleel that water is haram? Right? The first type of tahur is haram. Why is it haram? Right? If it's stolen or if it's taken by force, you didn't pay for it, you got it in a way that's unpermissible. Why is it haram? Because Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Inna dima'akum wa amwalukum wa a'radukum alaykum haram." Right? Verily, your blood and your property and your honor amongst yourselves is haram. Right? This is the hadith of Jabir in Sahih Muslim. The hadith of Jabir in Sahih Muslim. So now that we know it's haram, why is the wudu not accepted? We'll say it again because النهي يقتضي الفساد. Prohibition necessitates invalidation. If it's haram, it's no good. The water's haram, so the wudu is no good. Right? J. So we said that this first type of tahur is muharram. لا يرفع الحدث. It doesn't remove the hadith. Why? Because it's haram. والنهي يقتضي الفساد. What about al-khabath or najasa? Does it get rid of najasa? We said yes. Why? What's the difference between najasa and hadith? What's the difference between the removal of hadith and the removal of najasa? Exactly. Exactly. Right? The raf'ul hadith, ibadah. The removal of the hadith is an ibadah. And therefore it requires intention. And this is something that's haram, right? So it won't count. But the removal of najasa is not ibadah. And it is not necessary that you have intention. Right? We gave the example. If it rains and my thobe is dirty, and the rainwater washes my thobe, the dirt off my thobe, is my thobe clean now? You say yes, even though I had no intention. So this is why al-ma al-muharram al-tahur, al-ma al-tahur al-muharram, the water that's tahur. The first category is haram. Right? Why is it haram? Because of the statement of the Prophet, Sahih Muslim, Hadith Jabir, إن دماءكم وأموالكم وأعراضكم عليكم حرام. Verily your blood and your property and your honor is haram. لا يرفع الحدث. It doesn't remove the hadith. Why not? Because, say it with me, why not? Why doesn't it remove the hadith? Prohibition necessitates what? Invalidation. Prohibition necessitates invalidation. And nahi yaqtadi al-fasad. If something is prohibited, it's not accepted. Right? So the raf al-hadith will not be accepted. What about the raf or zawal al-khabath? Will that be accepted? Will that count? Will that occur with this stolen water? The removal of najasa will. What's the difference between it and hadith? Right? Hadith, raf al-hadith requires intention. It's worship. Removal of najasa is not, and it doesn't. That's what we took in the last class. That's what we studied in the last class. Right? We said, al-ma' tahur arba'atu anwa'. It's 4 types. The first of them, muharram. Now the author is going to get into the second type of ma' at-tahur.
إذا النوع الأول يا أحباب من أنواع الماء الطهور ما هو الماء المحرم. طيب ما حكمه؟
Jane, we're going to do it one more time. So he says the first type, my beloved, of water that's tahur is what? Haram, muharram, it's haram, right? Muharram or haram, right? What's this ruling? What does it do? Mumtaz, it removes najasa but doesn't remove hadath, right?
برفع الحدث لا يرفع في زوال الخبث يزيد. ننتقل للثاني. الثاني.
He says, okay, so now we want to talk about the second type of ma' at-tahur. Right, now we're going to talk about the second type.
ماء يرفع حدث الخنثى اكتب عنده الثاني. وماء يرفع حدث الأنثى لا الرجل البالغ والخنثى.
So he says, so here, write down number 2. Right, if you had your book with you, you write number 2 down next to the statement of the author. He says the second type is that which removes the hadath of a man. Of a female. That which removes the hadath of a female. Right, what's a hadath? It's a condition. It's a condition that occurs in the body that stops you from being able to pray. Right, passing gas, using the restroom, sleeping, period, so forth. These are ahdath, right? So the second one is that which will remove the hadath of a woman, but not that of a grown man or a hermaphrodite. Right? It's water that will remove the hadath of a woman, but not that of a grown man or a hermaphrodite. A hermaphrodite is a boy and a girl. They have both boy and girl parts. Right? They have a male part and a female part. Right? Sometimes they're clear, so it'll be like a woman who has a penis, but she's a woman. Or it'll be a man that has a vagina, but he's a man. And sometimes they're mushkil. Sometimes we don't know if they're a man or a woman. You see what I'm saying? So this is a hermaphrodite. They have both parts. Sometimes they're clear. They're a man, but they have the other part, or they're a woman, but they have the other part. And sometimes they're mushkil. Sometimes we don't know if they're a man or a woman, right? We just don't know, right? They use both devices when they use the restroom, right? So this is a hermaphrodite. We call them a khuntha, right? So the second type, what's the second type of tahur water? That which will remove the hadath of a woman, but it won't remove the hadath of a grown man or a khuntha or a hermaphrodite.
كيف؟ يقول هذا الماء الثاني يرفع حدث المرأة لكن ما يرفع حدث الرجل ولا يرفع حدث الخنثى. من هو الخنثى؟ الخنثى هو الذي لا يعلم هل هو رجل أو هو امرأة.
He says here, so he answers your question. He says al-khuntha or hermaphrodite is the one that we're unsure. We don't know. We don't know if it's a man or a woman. Right? We don't know if it's a man or a woman.
هل هو رجل أو امرأة؟ يعني عنده في الخلقة تغير أو تشوه في الخلقة بحيث ما يعرف ما اتضح هل هو ذكر ولا هو أنثى.
It has characteristics that it has been created with that make it unclear whether it is a man or a female, whether it's male or female. This is the khuntha, right? It has characteristics that it's been created with that make it unclear whether it is male or female.
طبعا هو إما ذكر وإما أنثى. ليس بينهما بين الذكر والأنثى جنس ثالث ما فيه. قال المصنف وماء يرفع حدث الأنثى لا الرجل البالغ والخنثى. ما هو هذا الماء؟ يرفع حكر والأنثى يعني عنده في الخلقة تغير أو تشوه في الخلقة بحيث ما يعرف ما اتضح هل هو ذكر ولا هو أنثى. لكن قطعا هو إما ذكر وإما أنثى.
He says, but we should know for sure that it will either be a male or a female. Meaning that everything that exists is either a male or a female. There's no third species. Right? It's either, or gents or sex. It's either male or female. But we just don't know.
ليس بينهما بين الذكر والأنثى جنس ثالث ما فيه. قال المصنف وماء يرفع حدث الأنثى لا الرجل البالغ والخنثى. ما هو هذا الماء؟ قال وهو ما خلت به امرأة أو المرأة المكلفة لطهارة كاملة عن حدث.
Okay. So he goes back and he says, so the author, he says, the second type is water, right? The second type of tahur is water that will remove the hadath of a woman, but it won't remove the hadith of a grown man, rajulun baligh, right? Or a hermaphrodite. What kind of water is this? It's the type of water, right? Write these down. The type of water, khalat bihi imra'atun. A woman was alone with it. Imra'atun mukallafa, right? A woman who's religiously responsible, right? Was alone with it for complete purification because of a hadith, right? What kind of water is the second type of water? It's the type of water that a woman who's religiously responsible, mukallafa, was alone with it while making a complete purification because of a hadith. 5 things we mentioned. Water that a woman who's religiously responsible, mukallafa, was alone with it while making a complete purification, right? Because of a hadith. The complete purification is of the hadith, right? That which a woman who's religiously responsible was alone with while making a complete purification from hadith. Wazi? He's going to talk about all of those aspects.
طورنا المسألة ستتضح وتسهل. ما هي؟ يقول المرأة إذا خلت بالماء، كيف خلت؟ يعني دخلت في الحمام وأغلقت الباب. الآن
So he says, so it will become clear after we clarify it too, right? A woman is alone with water, right? How is she alone with this water? She enters into the hammam and she locks the door, right? She enters into the bathroom and she locks the door. She's alone with it.
وهي امرأة. فإذا خلت المرأة بالماء لطهارة كاملة عن حدث، يعني هي خلت بالماء، دخلت الحمام وأغلقت الباب، ماذا تريد؟ تريد الوضوء أو تريد الاغتسال.
Right, so he says, so for example, this woman has entered the bathroom and locked the door, right? Why does she do it? She wants to make a wudu, or she wants to take a bath, right? So it's a woman alone with it to make a purification because of hadith.
فإذا حصل هذا منها فإن الماء الذي خلت به يرفع حدث المرأة مثلها، لكن ما يرفع حدث الرجل.
So if this was the case, then the water that she was alone with will remove the hadith of another woman, but it won't remove the hadith of a man. I'm going to give you some breakdown of it, so as we go forward, the statements of the Shaykh will be even more clearer, right? Khalat bihi, right? It's the water that a woman. So what about if it was a man? Does it count? Is it this second type? We said 5 conditions. The second type of water is the water that will remove the hadith of a woman, not the hadith of a grown man or hermaphrodite. The first condition is that it be a woman using it, right? So if a man uses it, it's not from this category. Clear? The second thing is that the woman must be mukallafa, right? He's going to explain it, but we'll explain it for you now. Mukallafa, baligh, aqila, religiously responsible. She's reached puberty and she has intellect. These are the things that make a person religiously responsible: puberty and intellect, right? So she's reached puberty, she has intellect, she's a woman, right? What about if a 4-year-old girl makes wudu alone? Is it from this category? No, because she's not religiously responsible. What if an insane woman makes wudu from this water alone? Is it from this category? No, because she's not religiously responsible. She has to be a woman who's religiously responsible, who's alone. What do we mean by alone? Right, he's going to explain it. It might mean nobody sees her making it. Nobody, that's the example that he just gave. No one sees her using it. Some other people say no one participates with her. No one digs while she digs to scoop the water out. But here he said alone, as he's going to explain further, means no one saw her use it. She was in seclusion. Alone meaning seclusion. For a complete purification, right? What if she only washes her hands and her face, but doesn't wash her feet and her head? Is that a complete purification? So then it's not from this category. What about, and he said the complete purification has to be because of a hadith. So what if she washed her clothes with this water? Is it from this category? What if she got into the tub, sat halfway down, but then had to do something and got out before she put her head under the water? Is it from this category? Right? Because it's not a complete purification because of hadith. What if she was just renewing her wudu? Is it from this category? She just was making wudu again. Is it from this category? No. Because it wasn't because of a hadith. She purified herself, but not because she was muhdith, right? So the 5 conditions, it has to be a woman, right? We understand it. Religiously responsible. We understand it. Who's alone? He said means seclusion, right? For complete purification, right? Not a partial purification, has to be complete. Whether a full wudu or a full ghusl. Because of a hadith. Not for the removal of najasa, or not because she was renewing her wudu or something like that. These are the 5 conditions. So now when the sheikh goes on and explains it, we'll understand these conditions a little bit more.
ولا يرفع حدث الخنثى. لماذا الخنثى؟ لأن الخنثى قد يكون رجل، فبالتالي لا يرفع حدثه احتياطا.
Right, so he says, so this type of water that was used by a religiously responsible woman alone for a complete purification because of a hadith, it won't remove the hadith of a man. It'll remove the hadith of another woman, but not that of a man. And it won't remove the hadith of a hermaphrodite. Why not? Because that hermaphrodite might be a man. Right? It's either a man or a woman, but we don't know, so it might be a man, therefore it doesn't remove the hadith of that individual.
صورة المسألة. طيب، إذن هذه المرأة التي دخلت إلى الخلاء وأغلقت الباب تريد الوضوء أو تريد الاغتسال. خرجت من الخلاء، جاء الرجل يتوضأ بهذا الماء. على كلام المصنف يرتفع الحدث ولا ما يرتفع؟ ما يرتفع. Okay, so we're going to ask the question. So this woman goes into the bathroom, locks the door, right? The sink is full of water. She goes in there, or the tub is full of water. She goes, she makes wudu, or she takes a bath. Then she comes out, right? Then a man goes in and wants to use that water that's still there to make a purification, right? Will his purification be accepted? Will it remove his hadith? Right? It won't remove his hadith, right? Because these 5 conditions were present. امرأة بعدها توضأت، يرتفع الحدث ولا ما يرتفع؟ يرتفع. He
says, but what if a woman came in after that? Will it remove the hadith? Exactly. According to the school of thought, it removes the hadith of a woman and not the hadith of a man.
هب أن المرأة التي دخلت إلى الخلاء وأغلقت الباب وخلت بهذا الماء ما كانت تريد الوضوء ولا الاغتسال، تريد إيش؟ تريد إزالة الخبث. تريد إزالة الخبث. نعم؟ أو تريد التبرد، أو تريد التنظف مثلا، تريد التنظف مثلا. يقول لا يتأثر الماء. هذه المسألة لماذا يقولون بهذا الكلام؟
So he says, so now what about the woman went into the restroom, locked the door, right? And she doesn't want to make a wudu or a ghusl. She just wants to clean the filth off of her body. Or she wants to cool off or clean her body. Will this remove the hadith of a man afterwards? As I said, she went in there to clean the filth off of her body. She went to get rid of najasa on her body. Not hadith, no. She went to get in there for the najasa off of her body. Then a man can use it, exactly. She went in there to cool off. Can a man use it? Because we said that it has to be a complete purification from hadith. So if she washes her body to get dirt off, right, that's a complete purification. But it's not a complete purification from hadith, right? But if she does both, right, like you were thinking, if she wants to cool off and make wudu at the same time, and she was in a state of hadith, then if the hadith was removed, it doesn't remove the hadith of a man afterwards. If no hadith was removed, it removes the hadith of a man afterwards, right? He says, why do they say this? Right? Why do they say this? Like we said, there's a lot of stuff that's disagreed about. But why do they say this? This is what the author says in this book.
على هذا القضية هذه يعتبرونها تعبدية. يقولون لورود النص. ما هو النص؟ النص حديث الحكم بن عمرو.
So he says that the reason why they have this opinion, they say that this affair is from the affairs ta'abbudi. It's from the things that we don't know why, we just do it because the text said so. Right? I'm going to give you a little background. Certain things in Islam, we know the reason why. Why is khamr haram? Yeah, why is alcohol haram? It's because Allah forbade it. Why did Allah forbid it? It intoxicates, right? كل مسكر يسكر فهو حرام. Anything that intoxicates, then it's haram, right? So we know why it's haram. Why is a pig haram? Why did Allah forbid it? What's the hikmah? What's the illah? Right? It's because it's filthy, right? Yeah. It's from the innahu rijs, right? It's filthy, right? So we know why it's haram, right? Why is gambling haram? Huh? No, because ithmuha akbar min naf'iha, right? The sin of it, the harm of it is greater than the benefit of it. We know why, right? Some things in Islam we know the answers to. We know why it's this way. Some things we don't. They call it ta'abbudi. Why does camel meat break your wudu? And no other meat does. Right? We don't know. We say it's ta'abbudi. Allah said so, just the way it is, right? So they say that this issue of why the water removes the hadith of a woman, but not the hadith of a man, if these conditions are met, they say it's because it's ta'abbudi. We don't know the reason. Ta'abbudi means the text said it's this way, so we said it's that way. What's the text? What's the daleel? Right? So far we got one daleel already under our belt, right? He's going to mention for us our second daleel. So what's the daleel?
يتوضأ أي نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن يتوضأ الرجل بفضل طهور المرأة.
He says the daleel is the hadith of Al-Hakim ibn Amr al-Ghifari. Right? The hadith of Al-Hakim ibn Amr al-Ghifari that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbade a man to make purification with the water, the excess water left over by a woman. Right? And likewise a woman to make purification, that's what he has mentioned. Let me see.
نهى عن الرجل. هذه يعتبرونها تعبدية. يقولون لورود النص. ما هو النص؟ النص حديث الحكم بن عمرو. نهى أن يتوضأ أي نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن يتوضأ الرجل بفضل طهور المرأة.
Now, so he says that the evidence once again is the hadith of Al-Hakim ibn Amr al-Ghifari that the Prophet ﷺ forbade a man to make wudu with the water left over by a woman. He forbade a man from he forbade men, should I say. The Prophet forbade men from making wudu with the tahur water left over by a woman. نهى أن يتوضأ الرجل بفضل طهور المرأة. The Prophet forbade for men to make wudu with the tahur, water left over by a woman. Right, exactly. That's what he's talking about. Exactly. The water left over. Right? She dipped her hand in the bucket. She made wudu from all of that water. All of that water is left over. Some people say it's the water that drips from her body. Some people say it's the actual water in the container. These are details, right? Is it the water that falls from her body? Is that the water that's left over? Or is it the water that is in the container? But the safest thing for you right now is the water that's in the container, right? This is the fadl. This is the water that's left over, right? That's why I said that maybe the proper opinion here is the water that's left over in the bucket. Now you could catch the water from her body and use it. He said she could make wudu over a sink, and then water could fall into the sink with the stop in it, and that water is falling from her arm and into the sink. Or the bath water that she left after she got out the tub. Right? This is water that's been used. Right? This is the water that's remaining. Or she dipped her hand into the container. This is the water that's remaining. Right? The water that's left over by her. Jay, so the hadith once again, Al-Hakim ibn Amr al-Ghifari, نهى أن يتوضأ الرجل بفضل طهور المرأة. The Prophet ﷺ forbade men from making wudu with the tahur water left over by a woman. Right? You can find this hadith in Al-Khamsa. Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, and Ahmad. Right? Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, and Ahmad. These are known as Al-Khamsa, the five. Right? The five.
أن يتوضأ الرجل بفضل طهور المرأة. واضح النص. قالوا إذا كان الرجل منهي أن يتوضأ بفضل طهور المرأة فإذا توضأ لم يرتفع حدثه. واضح الدليل أم لا؟
So he says, is this evidence clear? Right? The Prophet forbade men from making wudu with the tahur left over by a woman. He says, if this hadith forbade the men from doing so, then it means that the wudu of the man won't occur, or it won't be counted if they use this water. Right? This is why we say this. This is why this is the evidence, right? Because the Prophet forbade it, and if it's forbidden, then therefore it won't account, right? It won't occur, it won't be accepted. Is that clear, the evidence?
الحديث لم يذكر الخلوة. ما قال إذا خلت به المرأة.
Jay, I'm going to change it up a little bit here. What are the 5 conditions again that this water has to have in order to be from this second category? We said it's 5 things that has to occur. What are they? A woman, mukallafa, religiously responsible, alone, complete purification because of a hadith, right? Show me these in the hadith. Show me those 5 conditions in the hadith. The hadith says the Prophet forbade men from using water left over by a woman. Show me those conditions in that hadith. Right? We said it has 5 conditions. Those 5 conditions must be present in the hadith, right? Okay. What about, let's go one at a time. Woman, is that in the hadith? Right? Because the Prophet said the water left over by a what? By a woman. So we know now it's a woman, okay? What about mukallafa? Is that in the hadith? Right? We're going to find out that that is in the hadith because the only women that count are the women that are religiously responsible, right? But linguistically it's not in the hadith, right? What about being alone? Is that in the hadith? It's not in the hadith. What about a complete purification? Is that in the hadith? Where? The water left over. So if it's left over, it must be left over for what, right? It's not directly, but you might, right? So I just want you to see, maybe it's there, maybe it's not there. So let's see, do these conditions, because right now we're only learning the book. But this is how evidence works. You made a claim that these 5 conditions need to be present, right? Based on this hadith. Shouldn't all 5 of these conditions be in the hadith? So that's what I want you to look at and try to see, do you see it in the hadith or not? So the author, he says, as far as the condition of being alone, then it's not in the hadith. Where do the scholars get it from?
حديث لم يذكر لكن ورد عن بعض الصحابة عن عبد الله بن سردس أنه فسره بالخلوة وقال
He said, so where do the scholars get it from? The scholars get it from the statement of some of the Sahaba, and he mentioned Abdullah bin Man, Sajda. He said Abdullah bin Sajda, I believe his name was, he says that they explained it by being the water that she was alone with. Right, so this is from the statement of some of the Sahaba. The statement of some of the Sahaba that made this condition of being alone.
هنا وهي ها هنا لم يذكر لكن ورد عن بعض الصحابة عن عبد الله بن سردس أنه فسره بالخلوة وقال توضأ أنت هنا وهي ها هنا أما إذا خلت فلا تقربنه.
Right, so Abdullah bin Sardas, he explained it as being the water that the woman was alone with. And he used to say, make your wudu with it right here. Right? He would tell the woman, make your wudu right here. But as far as you being alone with it, then no. Right? So the condition of being alone is taken from the statement of some of the Sahaba. Abdullah ibn Sardas. Sardas, let's find out exactly what his name is, because I can't hear the statement of the Sheikh clearly. So So this is a good thing with us studying from the tape of the Sheikh, that we can take a second to get the name correctly. Because we're all learning together. Abdullah ibn Sarjas. Yeah, Abdullah ibn Sarjas. Sin, Ra, Jim, Sin. Sarjas min sigar al-Sahaba. He's from the young Sahaba, right? Give you a little bit about him. Al-Muzani, al-Sahabi, al-Muammar, Nazil al-Basra, min Hulafai bani Makhzum. صح أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم استغفر له وقد روى أيضا عن عمر. Right? So he's from the younger Sahaba. He was given a long life. He took his abode in Basra. And it's authentic that the Prophet ﷺ asked Allah to forgive him. Abdullah bin Sarjas also narrates hadith on Umar. Right? He died in the Dawla of Abdul-Malik ibn Marwan around 80 and a half years. Right? Year 80 and a half from the Hijrah. Abdullah ibn Sarjas. Right? So Abdullah bin Sarjas is where we get the condition of al-khalw. Right? He used to tell the woman, make wudu right here. But as far as you being alone with it, then no.
هذا فسر الحديث بأن المراد به الاختلاء الخلوة. واضح المسألة هذه. عرفنا من أين أتوا بهذه المسألة وكيف قادوا بها. طيب واسمحوا لنا الآن اسمحوا لنا في هذه المسألة واكتبوا عندها.
So he says, so the point is that we understand how this issue, how they got this issue, right? They used the hadith of the Prophet on who? Al-Hakam ibn Amr al-Ghifari. نهى أن يتوضأ الرجل بفضل طهور المرأة. The Prophet ﷺ forbade that men use the water left over or the tahur left over by women to make wudu. Naha, he forbade men from making wudu with the tahur left over by women. And as far as the condition of being alone, then that's not in the hadith. But that condition is taken from the statement of the Sahabi, Abdullah ibn Sarjas, when he said that the water that is intended is the water that the woman is alone. We understand how we got this evidence, how we got this opinion. This is the second type of water. Is that clear? Because now the author says, okay, pardon me, allow me, but I must.
وعنه هو طهور مطلقا.
He said, I must say about it that it is tahur. The water is still acceptable for men or for women, basically. Mutlaqa. Remember, like we said in the beginning, we're not going to get into the ikhtilaf and the tarjihat. But the easiest thing for you to know about water is what? This is my statement to you. How many types of water are there really? 2. Tahur and najis. If it's tahur, it's tahur. If it's not tahur, then it's najis. Right? So he's going to talk about that, go against his principle, because his principle is what? Just to explain it. But because of this, he's going to mention the disagreement here because of how correct the other opinion is. Right? So he says that this water is tahur mutlaqa. All of those conditions, all of that math you had to do to figure out is it tahur or not. The answer is, if your wife was alone with the water, is it tahur or not? It's tahur. Right?
وعنه هو طهور مطلقا. عنه يعني عن الإمام أحمد.
So he says you can write in your book, write the statement وعنه هو طهور مطلقا. And from him, i.e. from Imaam Ahmed, there is another opinion that it is tahur without conditions. Right? The woman used it, but it's still tahur, no matter what. Right? So you can write that in your book next to this statement. Right? The first opinion is it won't raise the hadith of a grown man or a hermaphrodite. Right next to that, وَعَنْهُ, and his statement, and from his statements is that it's tahur without restrictions. Meaning it will remove the hadith of a man or a hermaphrodite. واضح؟
هو طهور مطلقا يعني هو طهور في حق الرجل وفي حق المرأة.
Mutlaqa, i.e. it's tahur regarding for a man or for a woman. A woman who was religiously responsible, was alone with it for a complete purification because of a hadith. The book says Only a woman's hadith can be raised by it. And from him, i.e. from Imam Ahmed, is another statement that says it's tahur mutlaqa. It's tahur regardless. It can remove the hadith of a man or a woman. واضح?
الماء لا يجنب.
Right, and what's the evidence? We said we got to have evidence. So when you write the statement of Imam Ahmed, and from him is that it's that it's tahur mutlaqa, write the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-ma' la yajnub. Water does not become junub. Right? Water does not become sexually impure. Right? When one of his wives, Maymuna, made wudu and the Prophet came in after her and wanted to make wudu after her, she said, I've made wudu from that water. I took a bath in that water from janaba. The Prophet said to her, al-ma' la yajnub. Right? Water does not become junub. It does not become sexually impure. Water does not become sexually impure. If you want to know where that hadith is, we do this for y'all because he doesn't mention it. Al-ma la yajnub. I believe it's in Sunan Abi Dawood on Maymuna or Ibn Abbas. Al-ma la yajnub. Right, the hadith is in Sunan Abi Dawood from the hadith of Ibn Abbas that the Prophet ﷺ, that some of the wives of the Prophet made a ghusl in a container. And the Prophet ﷺ came to make wudu from that same container or a ghusl. And so she said, O Messenger of Allah, I used that water and I was junub. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, al-ma, that water, la yujnib. Al-water, la yujnib. Water does not become junub. Right? And that's in Sunan Abi Dawood. In other places, but we'll suffice ourselves with Sunan Abi Dawood.
لأن هذا الحديث وإن صححه بعضهم قال الحافظ وإسناده صحيح لكنه معارض بأحاديث أخرى.
Right. So he says, so this hadith, even if some scholars say it's authentic, like Al-Hafidh, talking about the hadith of Amr al-Ghifari, right, Ibn Amr al-Ghifari, this hadith, even though some scholars say it's authentic, from them Al-Hafidh, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, it's contradicted by other ahadith, right, it's contradicted by other ahadith. From them is the hadith of the Prophet that he made wudu from the water left over from Maymuna, right, he made wudu from the water left over by Maymuna.
بفضل اغتسال ميمونة واستعمل الماء بعد بعض نسائه.
And the fact that he used the water after some of his wives had used the water before him.
أن النهي الذي ورد في الحديث هنا أنه للاستحباب أو نقول النهي للكراهة.
So now, the prohibition that's in this hadith, when the Prophet forbade us to use this water, this type of prohibition, we say it's preferable not to use. Right? This type of water, it's better that you don't use it. Or it's disliked if you do use it. Right? The hadith is authentic. The Prophet said don't do it. But even though the Prophet said don't do it, we see that he did it. So what does that mean? That means that this hadith, we don't just neglect it and say it doesn't mean anything. Instead, we put them together and say that this prohibition means that it's better not to use. Or it's disliked if you do use it. Right? Nahi lil-karah, right? The prohibition means that it's just disliked. It's just disliked. So if your wife went into the bathroom, took a bath, and got out the tub and there's water still in the tub, and you got to take a shower, you got to take a bath too, right? So you say, I'm just going to jump in and clean myself in the water that you left behind, right? We say, it's okay, but it's better not to use that water, right? Why is it okay? The hadith of Ibn Abbas, al-ma la yujnib. Water does not become any junub. But it's better not to use it. Why? The hadith of Al-Hakim ibn Amr al-Ghifari, naha an yatawadda al-rajul bifadli tahur al-mar'ah. The Prophet forbade men from making wudu with the water left over by women.
يستحب أن لا يتوضأ بعدها أو يكره أن يتوضأ بعدها فقط لكن لا علاقة له بعدم رفع الحدث. طيب أيها الأحباب، عرفنا الآن المذهب وعرفنا القول الثاني أو الرواية الثانية. قلنا وعنه، إذا قيل وعنه في كتب الحنابلة المراد عن الإمام أحمد.
So he says, so now, do we understand this school of thought? Is it clear to us this school of thought? What's this school of thought's opinion? What kind of water? What kind of woman? Right? When she was, to do what? For complete purification of hadith, right? What's the school of thought in this opinion? Yeah, what's the school of thought in this opinion? What's the school of thought about that water? It's not what? Right, it won't remove the hadith of a man or hermaphrodite. It's permissible, it just won't work. Right? They're not sinning if they use it, it just won't count, right? So it won't remove the hadith of a male or of a grown man or a hermaphrodite, right? And then we said وَعَنْهُ, and also from him. Who is he? Imam Ahmad, right? What's his other opinion? What's the opinion though? That's the proof. What's the opinion? It's usable by a man and a hermaphrodite. Why is it usable by a man or hermaphrodite? Because water doesn't become junub. The hadith of Ibn Abbas and the Sunan of Abi Dawood, water does not become junub, right? And likewise, the hadith of Al-Hakim contradicts other hadith of the Prophet, like the hadith that the Prophet made wudu with water left over by Maymun, right? So all of this shows us the school of thought. Is that clear? This is what type of water of tahur? The second type. We said the first type was muharram, and the second type is that which will remove the hadith of a woman, but not that of a grown man or hermaphrodite. And that is the type of water that was used by a religiously responsible woman for a complete purification from hadith when she was alone, right? Or when she was alone from a complete purification of hadith.
يقولون عنه فقط خلاص الضمير ينصرف للإمام أحمد. إذا عن الإمام أحمد رواية ثانية أن هذا الماء الذي خلت به المرأة هو طهور ويرفع حدث الرجل ويرفع حدث الأنثى، ويستدلون بحديث ميمونة. وهذا الرأي الثاني الذي ذكرته هو خلاف المعتمد في المذهب، لكن ذكرته لأني أميل إليه.
Right. So he says, so the second opinion is still an opinion from this school of thought, right? So he's justifying the fact that he's not going to go outside the school of thought. He's still trying to teach you what's in the book. But he mentioned it because he leans to that second opinion. He deems that that second opinion is strong, right?
برأيي خذوا بكلام المذهب ودعوا كلام من سواه. طيب أكمل يا شيخ.
He said, but so when you become from the people, so that was just my opinion, and if you like, you can take from the statement of the school of thought and leave off the opinion of whoever else. You see what I'm saying? For beginning a student. Alright, so he finishes that second type. We just want to recap it and mention a couple of things that he didn't clarify that might be beneficial for you. First type of water of tahur is what? Muharram. Right? What does it do? It removes najasa but not hadith. Why doesn't it remove hadith? Why is it haram, Abdul Qadir? Why is the water haram? What's the proof that the water is haram? You stole this water. What's the proof that's haram? The hadith of the Prophet, Inna amwalakum wa dima'akum wa amwalakum wa aradakum alaykum haram. Hadith Jabir, Sahih Muslim. Right? Hadith Jabir, Sahih Muslim. Alright, we know the water is haram. Why doesn't it remove hadith? Because yes, but النهي يقتضي فساد, invalidation. Prohibition necessitates invalidation. So if this action is haram, if this water is haram, then it necessitates that the wudu is invalid. Right? If you wear a haram thobe, is your salat accepted according to this principle? We say no. Right? Because prohibition necessitates invalidation. Right? Now we said there's a difference of opinion, but that's the school of thought. Why does it remove najasa? Because hadith is ibadah, and it needs a niyyah, and najasa is not ibadah. Raful najasa is not ibadah, therefore it doesn't require niyyah. It doesn't require me to even do anything. So therefore, as long as it's gone, the water it still removes it. Fadal. Jay, he asks a question that he doesn't talk about in the book. What is najasa? النجاسة كل ما حرم تناوله لا لضرره ولا لاستقذاره ولا لحرمته. Right? Anything that is haram for you to take it. Right? Not because it's dangerous, not because it's repulsive, and not because it's sacred. Then it's najas. For example, is it permissible for you to take a pig? Yes. Can you go to the store and buy a pig? No. You can't go to the store and buy a pig. Right? Can you eat a pig? Right? You can't eat a pig. Right? It's haram for you tanawulu. Right? Tanawula ma'nahu akhid. But here you can say eat. Right? We'll make it easy for you. Everything that's haram to eat, not because it's harmful. So poison. Right? Is it haram to eat poison? Yes, it's haram to eat poison, right? It's haram, not your Jews, right? But why is it haram to eat poison? Because it's dangerous. So if I get some rat poison on my throat, right? Can I pray in that throat? Yes, because it's haram to eat, not because it's dangerous. So it's not najasa, because najasa is something that's haram to eat, not because it's dangerous. Then you got the second condition, not because it's filthy or repulsive. For example, snot. Right? Is it permissible to eat snot? Is it permissible to eat snot? Can I go in my nose, pick a booger, and eat it? La your juice. Right? It's not your juice. La your juice. Right? It's because boogers are najas. The Prophet ﷺ used to blow his nose in the sleeve of his garment. Right? So if it was najis, he wouldn't have did so, right? So they're not najis, but they're haram to eat because they're repulsive, right? Wala li hurmati, right? It's haram to eat not because it's sacred. Can I eat a human being? Right? They're sacred, right? Are they najis? We say, no, that's sacred. The animals in the haram in Mecca, can I hunt and eat those animals? Right? Even during, like the ones that are in the haram, yeah, you can't. Right? They're sacred. Right? What about if I took some human hair and made a thobe out of it? Can I pray in it? La. Yeah, human hair is sacred. Right? I can't cut your beard and make a thobe out of that. That's not your Jew. This is human. Right? You make a thobe out of human hair? A human leather wallet? Huh? La, that's haram. Right? Because it's sacred. Right? These things are sacred. Right? Semen. Can you eat semen? La. It's repulsive, or you say it's sacred because it's the matter of a human being. It's the foundation of a human being, right? So, these things are haram to eat for this harm, or their repulsiveness, or their sacredness, but they're not najis. But a pig, is a pig harmful? Of course it's harmful in the religion, right? We know the pig is harmful, but its harm isn't like the harm of poison. Is it repulsive? Of course to the Muslim it's repulsive, but its repulsiveness is not like the repulsiveness of snot, right? Is it sacred? There's no hurma laha, right? There's no sacredness to it, but it's still haram to eat, then that means it's najis. Kullu ayn harumat or haruma tanawuluha or tanawuluhu la li dararihi. It's haram to eat, not because it's harmful, not because it's sacred, and not because it's repulsive, then it's najis. This is the definition of what is najis. Right? So we said that was the first type of water. That's a tahur, it's muharram. Right? Yarfa al-hadath wa yazil al-khabath. La yarfa al-hadath wa yazil al-khabath. The second type of tahur water was what? Hadith? What was the second type of tahur water? What type is it first? That's what it does. What type is it? What should I say? What will it? It's permitted. it will remove, don't use permissible, right? You say if a man uses it, is he sinning? No, he's not sinning, it just, he doesn't have wudu, right? I can play in that water all day, right? But it just, you don't get wudu from it. So don't say permissible, because permissibility, the opposite of it is impermissible, right? It's water that will remove the hadith of a woman. But it won't remove the hadith of a grown man, right? Or a khuntha, or hermaphrodite, right? What kind of water is it? 5 conditions. What kind of water is it? Water used by women. Religiously responsible. What does it mean to be religiously responsible? Puberty, and what else? Intellect. She has to have puberty and sanity, right? This is taklif. This is responsibility in the religion. You reach puberty and you have sanity, right? So it's water that was used by a woman who's mukallafa, right? While she was alone. A complete purification for what thing? Hadith, right? So now let's look. If it was used by a young girl, right? Is it from this category? Young girl, right? My daughter, Toby, she learned how to make wudu. Can I make wudu after the water she dipped her hands in? Yes, right? Because she's not what? Mukallaf. What about an insane girl? What condition is missing? Mukallaf, right? What about me and my wife are making the wudu at the same time from the same water? Or I stood there and watched her take the bath. Can I use that water? What condition is missing? The alone, right? What if she got halfway down in the tub, the door was locked, she got halfway down in the tub, and then I called her, so she got out the tub before getting all the way in, right? Can I use that water? Yes. Why can I use that water? Because it wasn't a complete purification, right? She purified half her body, but not the whole thing. What about if she renewed her wudu? I can use, what condition is missing? Of hadith, the removal of hadith, right? So these are the 5 conditions. What's the proof? What's the proof of this opinion? The opinion is that it won't work for a man, but it will work for a woman. If it has these 5 conditions, what's the proof? Al-Hakim ibn Amr al-Ghifari. Al-Hakim ibn Amr al-Ghifari, right? What did he say? Mumtaz. Right? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam naha an yatawadda'a ar-rajulu bifadli tahur al-mar'a. The Prophet forbade men from making wudu with the excess tahur of a woman, with the leftover tahur of a woman. How does that hadith show us it's not permissible for, it won't work for a man? How does that hadith prove that it won't remove the hadith of a man? I'm going to see if y'all who can put this together. Right? Okay, how does that, he forbade the rajul, but what does that mean? Show me why that won't, his wudu won't be accepted. And if the Prophet forbade it, then what's that mean? Prohibition necessitates what? Invalidation. So if the Prophet forbade a man to use it, what's that mean if a man uses it? It's invalid. Right? So that's how the evidence works. You see what I'm saying? It's not just to say the evidence. You got to understand how the evidence works. The Prophet forbade a man to use the water that was left over by a woman. Show me the wajhud dalal. How does that hadith prohibit or show me that the wudu of a man won't be accepted? Exactly. If the Prophet forbade it, then it must be invalid, right? J. That hadith of Al-Hakim al-Ghifari is in Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasai, Ibn Majah, and Ahmad, right? And it was authenticated by Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar, right? But then we said, before going into that, just to recap, we're almost done. I know it's been a long class today. But the first condition of it being a woman is in the hadith, right? The Prophet forbade a man make wudu with the water left over by a woman. Where do we get mukallafa from? The fact that the only women that we are concerned with in Islam are those religiously responsible, right? So that's implied in the statement of a woman, right? He didn't say young girl, he said a woman, so that means she's mukallaf, right? Where do we get the condition of alone from? Right? The condition that she has to be alone. Where do we get that condition from? Not from the hadith. The Sahaba. What Sahaba? Abdullah Sarjis. He said that the water that's intended is the water that the woman's alone with. Right? What about the condition of a complete purification? Right? From hadith, we say that's implied in the statement the water left over. Right? Because nobody would leave water unless they were done. Right? So that's where it's implied in that. Right? But the point of it is, this is the opinion. Right? And we get the condition of being alone from the statement of Abdullah ibn Sarjis. Right? Jay, is there another opinion in the school of thought? What is it? It's the school of thought, right? Both of them are Imam Ahmad's opinions. What's the opinion? That men and women can both use it. That the water will work for anyone, male or female. Right? What's the evidence? La yunjib. Right? Al-ma la yunjib. Water does not become impure. Right? That's the hadith of Ibn Abbas. Mumtaz. Right? What book is it in? Sunan Abi Dawud. Mumtaz. Right? So now, that shows us that the water doesn't become junub, so therefore a man or a woman can use it. Right? So this hadith of Al-Hakim is contradicted by other hadith. Right? The hadith of Ibn Abbas, the hadith of Maymuna, where the Prophet used the water that she left over. Right? So what do we say about the hadith of Al-Hakim? Do we say it's just don't care about it, don't mean nothing? What do we say about it? The prohibition means that it's disliked or that it's preferable not to use. So now at the end of the day, right, just to make sure we all understand it one last time, I'm tired, right? Me and my wife, alhamdulillah, did the two things that grown people do. And we know it's a sunnah before going to bed, if you do that, to take a bath, right, to take a ghusl, right? So she gets in the tub, she don't want to stand up in the shower, so she lets the tub fill up. She gets in the tub, she sits in, she dunks her head under, she gets her ears wet, everything washed, and I'm in the bed laying down waiting for her to get up. She gets up and says, the tub is all yours. The water's still in the tub, right? And I'm tired. What should I do? Don't use it. Why shouldn't I use it? Because it's disliked. The Prophet said don't do it. Right? The Prophet said don't use it, right? This is what it means to be disliked. It doesn't mean just do it anyway, right? It means that if you did it, it's okay. Your wudu is accepted. Your ghusl is accepted. But the Prophet still said don't do it. I know you said you was tired, but the Prophet said don't do it. Don't you pray? Don't you have to pray even though, you know what I mean, you ready to go to bed? I didn't say you was extremely tired, you don't know what you say. I'm saying you got to pray. You got to pray Isha. You was traveling, you get home, you're tired, you've been traveling all day. You're not going to pray Isha? You're going to pray Isha, right? Why you going to pray Isha? Why you going to pray Isha, Sunni? Exactly, because you got to do it. Why do you got to do it? Because Allah and His Messenger said pray Isha, right? So now, you're tired. It's a sunnah, right? You can, nobody's denying it. You can take the bath in it, but the question is, what should you do? Should you follow the sunnah or not follow the sunnah? What's your two options? To follow the sunnah or not follow the sunnah? Okay, we're talking about the ghusl though, right? You can make the wudu if you don't want to take it. We're talking about the ghusl though, right? So the question is, this ghusl, should you use that water or not use that water? Not for the benefit of the argument. We're not. This is what the Prophet said. The Prophet said don't use it. This is how the Sahaba used to approach stuff. Right? They didn't approach it like, well, I got a way to get around it. I know what I can get around it. No, I know the issue. I studied it. It's okay. Go ahead, whatever. Now they looked at it and said, the Prophet said don't do it. Are you bold enough? Are you brave enough? Are you that strong that you can say, I'm going to do it anyway? You got another hadith that says the word is not junub. No doubt. But the Prophet told you not to do it. So what do you do with that statement that the Prophet said don't do it? Do you just reject it like it never occurred? Ain't that statement that the Prophet said don't do it authentic? Yeah, we said al-Hakim, right? It's an authentic statement, right? So what do? Do you just reject it? This is what we mean when we say it's dislike, right? We don't never just abandon hadith. The Prophet said don't do it. So, the best thing is to what? Not do it. Now, if you had to do it, there's not enough water, you're tired, you're extremely tired, it's okay. Look, you did it, no problem. But you still did something the Prophet said don't do. Right? And that's how the Salaf used to look at things. The Prophet still said don't do it. The Prophet did it. The Prophet made wudu with the water left over from Maymunah. And he told the water doesn't become junub. Right? I agree with that. I got you, Sheikh. At the same, all of that's good. What did the Prophet say? What did the Prophet say? Don't do it. Right? He said the water doesn't become najasa. He said that, but he also said what? Don't do it. So we agree. The water doesn't become najasa. And what? And don't do it. Right? Now if you did it, the water's not najas. But, say it again. Don't do it. Right? This is the way of the Salaf. I'm the same thing. If I'm tired, I might do it. But this is how the Salaf used to approach things. It's not like the Prophet said, don't do it. You see what I'm saying? He said the water. Who told you the water doesn't become junub? The Prophet. Who's the one who told you the water doesn't become junub? He didn't know that the water wasn't junub when he told you not to do it? He didn't know that the water wasn't junub when he told you not to do it? You don't know if the Prophet didn't know?
I don't know.
I'm saying, when the one who told you the water doesn't become junub, right? He's also the one who told you don't use it, right? Did he know that the water doesn't become junub when he told you not to use it? He's the Prophet. This is the religion. Was he unclear about something in the religion? Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So we say no. The same guy who told you don't do it is the same guy who told you it's not junub. So we can't just say, well, he said it's not junub, I'm going to do it anyway. We say, no, he said it's not junub, but don't do it. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not going to abandon one of his statements to follow the other. I'm going to try to do both of them. It's not junub. And that's what we're saying. So how do you do both?
If you're in a condition where it would be a hardship for you, you do it. If you have the ability to not do it, then don't do it.
Exactly what we said. That's exactly what we said to begin with. If it's you wait, it's in the middle of the night, you want to go to bed, but you say, you're tired. Is it too hard for you to feel like to let the water out the tub? Exactly. You see what I'm saying? But the point is that if you can avoid it, avoid it. Fadl Sheikh, what's up?
Well, I was going to say,
Yeah, I mean that's true, right? They listen to Wallahi. This is the way the Sahaba used to approach the religion. Like we nowadays, we got what we call quote unquote fiqh. This is my statement to you all, right? We got what we call nowadays quote unquote fiqh. We understand the religion, right? We know the difference of opinion. I can get away with this, right? I know the difference. Sheikh so and so said that, but Sheikh so and so said that. The Sahaba, look, the Prophet said, don't do it. What you going to do with that statement? When Allah asks you on the day of judgment, what did you respond to the messenger? When the messenger told you don't do it, what did you do? I did it. But no, Allah, I knew it was okay. The Prophet said it was, all right, no problem, right? But you still got to answer that question. Allah's messenger told you not to do it. Wallahi, that's how the Sahaba used to approach the religion. That's why we see the Sahabi, Abdullah bin Sarjis, what did he say? He told his woman, no, you can't go along with it. He didn't say, it's tahur anyway, go ahead, it's cool, right? I need to use that water, don't go along with it, right? Why? Because they approached the religion. Allah's messenger said it, that's what I believe. And that's how we need to go back to. We need, sometimes we approach it with the fiqh. We need to go back to what did Allah and His messenger say and act according to that. Allahu a'lam, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Any questions about what we talked about today? So we finished the second type of tahur water. Fadl Sheikh.
now you talked about the tub. That's city water. What about modern day, we got running water? You drain that water.
Is there any water left over? The water that's coming out the drain is new. Out the faucet is new. Is there any water left over? I'm asking you. Is there water left over? Right? The shower's running. The shower's running. Your wife was in the shower.
Well, there's two scenarios. One is you step in a tub and then drain the water and run. Or
The question I'm asking you is, the water that you're using, is it coming from the bottom or the top? It's fresh water, so it doesn't apply because she didn't use that water that's coming out the faucet, did she?
No, but we're in the same company left.
That's fine. That water can be there. We said the water's not haram. The issue is, can you use the water that she left over? The water that's coming out the faucet, did she leave it over? Exactly. So it doesn't apply in this situation at all. Because the only water she left over is the water at the bottom. Are you putting your face at the bottom on the drain and splashing it around? Then it doesn't apply. If you did that, then it's something different. You see what I'm saying? But the water that's coming out the faucet is brand new water. Now you can stand in her water, you can play, you can cook with the water, right? But it's not, according to this school of thought, permissible, or should I say acceptable, if you make wudu with it. If it was used by a mature woman while she was alone for a complete purification from hadith, right? She's not a psycho, a person who doesn't have sanity, right? Person can be a psycho and have sanity. Yeah. A psychopath? You can be a psychopath and have sanity. A person who just kills people because he likes to kill people. What do you call him? Will he not be held accountable by Allah because he likes to kill people? So he's sane, right? Does he know killing people is wrong? He said, yeah, killing people is wrong, but I like it. He's a psycho, but he's not insane. Insane is somebody who doesn't have the faculties of reason. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. Go home and apply the hadith.
So the person in front of you is reading salah. He touches his private part with his hand. Let's see, I will do it now.
Scholars disagree.
What do they have? How do they have this disagreement?
They have disagreement because it's two different hadiths.
Two different Daleels, right? Statements, right? And the Prophet right? And they're both valid.
But this is the point. It depends on what you do. That's why we said we don't reject the best position. When you have two contradictory hadiths, what do? You either have to reject one, right?
That's what I'm saying.
No, you don't take the easy one.
Why not?
The first thing you do is you try to act by both of them.
Well, you see first, you see which is stronger.
Oh, they're both authentic. Of course, it's not even what's stronger. One can be in Bukhari, the other one can be in Ibn Majah. If they're both authentic, you have to act by both of them. How do you act by both of them? No, you put them together. You make them work with each other. So, for example, the hadith of touching your private part is just a part of you. And the hadith when the Prophet said, yes, remake your wudu, we say, okay, the reason he said yes, remake your wudu is if you touch it with desire. This is what Ibn Taymiyyah says. If you touch it with desire, then you need to remake your wudu. If you don't touch it with desire, then you don't need to remake your wudu. Because if you touch it with desire, it's probable that pre-cum comes out. And you don't know. So therefore, if you touch it with desire and that probability exists, we'll say remake your wudu to be careful. But if you don't touch it with desire, you just draws in the thing, right? And no pre-cum is likely to come out from that, so you don't need to remake your wudu. So we put them together.
Put them together. I didn't know that before.
Yeah, if you can't put them together, no, you put them together. Even if one is Bukhari and one is, Fulan, right? As long as it's authentic or Hasan. If you can't put them together, then you see if one is abrogated. So you look and see which one was the first one.
So when you asked me, they probably didn't know. The reason why I didn't answer you is because of that scenario. So was it something that abrogated, or was it when was it? This hadith was the first. Right.
I got that. That's why I tried to clarify and say that. Yeah. But the point when we say what I meant by we didn't know, meaning that he doesn't. Like for instance, Allah says Allah's the one who told you. Like what they say, the khushu thing that we talked about before. We gotta pray with khushu. Who the one who told you gotta pray with khushu? Right? And the Prophet, right? Who the one who told you gotta straighten your robes? The Prophet didn't know you need khushu when he told you to straighten your robes? Doesn't he? You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like, doesn't he know you need khushu? So it doesn't contradict each other. It means that he knew it and he told you to have khushu. So he knew that the water doesn't become junub, but he still told you not to use it. So we say, it's not junub, but try not to use it. Don't use it, right? And this is when we put them together. If we couldn't put them together, we would see which one comes first, which ones come last, right? If we don't know which one comes first, which ones come last, then we act by whichever one is stronger, right? We do troubleshooting. We act by whichever one. We act by whichever one has the most support.